Yeah, I feel it's a duty for everyone who's working today to start to, rather than fight AI, partner with AI, because there'll be room to coexist. I don't want to say room to coexist as if this invasion is going to happen, right? Conspiracies are always popular.
No, I mean, sorry. So one of the things that we like to think about, you think about being able to program and run some beginner data science models, and being able to use Excel, when we're 10 years in the future. It's like, it's a good skill to have. You're not going to get like a job just because you know how to do it. So I think that's where we'll get to. Like, kids are learning this today, right? Like, I have kids who are like elementary school age, and there are like after school type programs that you can go and they learn to program a little bit in Python, and they learn to run some of these models a little bit, right? And so I think in the future you have a generation of people who like, I know how to use Excel. In the same way they'll say, I know how to run a random forest or something. It's not going to be the thing that defines the job, but it's a thing that you kind of need to know, right?
A skill set you need to have. You need to be certified, or you need to have experience using a computer. I mean, I remember growing up, more and more people were worried, and there was this whole movement about retraining the workforce and teaching people how to use computers. And now something similar is happening here too, where software came in, and it might be Excel, it might be Salesforce, it might be some technology that makes you run more efficiently. Now it's going to be AI. Like, understand how AI is used so that you can work around it and you can work with it. And it is an education, and I don't think there's a standardized path here. I mean, a lot of people that want to get into this industry struggle in terms of, where do I start? It's not like there's it's right in front of you like Excel, and you can play around with it, and you can buy some courses and learn. People sometimes don't know where to start. What advice do you have for those people who want to make a move into AI? What's the roadmap look like?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the other thing is generational. So, when I was going to college, I don't think there was such a well-defined like AI path. There was computer science, and maybe there were a couple of classes in it. But today, I think most colleges do have a degree in AI or machine learning or something along those lines. So there's been a shift, and that's why we have this mixed bag, right? Now on the flip side, so if you are in the situation where either because you didn't do it in college and you're a recent graduate, or because there wasn't such a thing, then a couple of options for you. I mean, you can go all the way to like trying to do a master's, be it online or something like that, if you have the time and commitment. You could do a generalized course. There are a couple of other courses out there that generally teach machine learning and AI. If you're looking for real estate specifically, obviously PropertyQuants does offer something. So you can come and contact us, and we do run a course for how you can apply data science and machine learning to real estate. So there are a couple of options there. It depends on sort of how much how deeply you want to get into it, your budget in terms of time as well, and I think just go from there. The other sort of trend is that maybe over time, and this hasn't happened yet, but I think over the next maybe 10-20 years, some of the software might get a little bit more and more user friendly. So you're right, like Excel, most people could probably pick it up and figure out how to use it. That hasn't happened yet for a lot of this data science machine learning, but I see some of the things along the way that are going to potentially get us there, maybe in the next decade or two, where it's fully sort of something where you could pick it up and start playing with it and figure it out yourself.
Yeah, no, I struggled, especially when I tried to enter this technical field and try to figure out where to start. And I did endless courses, and stumbling upon your course was the first course I had ever seen that was really practical, because you're implementing AI in every aspect in the real estate sector, and the course is very diverse. We can talk about it later. But I struggled initially, and I did courses, and some of these courses were over my head. Some of these courses, were so mathematical, or assumed you had a prerequisite where you could program very well. I mean, it felt like some of these courses were made for hardcore engineers who wanted to, who wanted to do more with AI in their hardcore engineering way. What do you think are the prerequisites? What does someone need to know as a basis before they're ready to get technical and understand AI in a hands-on way?
Yeah, I mean, we run a course that does get into some depth on this. We don't need people to know programming to start. but we will teach you, right? So people can come in and learn that. I will say, I think, you know,
by the way, just to pause you there, by the way, there's something very powerful about what you said. You can kill two birds with one stone. You can, in order to learn programming in AI, you might as well just apply programming to AI. And, you know, learning programming is part of the curriculum for learning AI. So I think courses like that I found to be the most helpful. The ones that weren't written for the hardcore engineers, but the courses that were built for, look, this is a technical course. We're going to sort of teach you the foundations. And it turns out what you're learning isn't just core for AI, it's core for appreciating how computers work. It's core for appreciating how software works and how computers are overall, which I think is itself is mandatory. People need to know this. But I'll let you continue, yeah.
No, absolutely, because like what is machine learning, right? We said, you know, previously you write a computer program and it will do step 1, do step 2, do step 3. Machine learning is I want to be able to get this outcome, for example, predict the home price. Here's a data set, and then telling the computer, go figure out how to go from here to here, right? And so that's sort of machine learning and heart of things like AI. So yeah, you know, you're right. You know, we run a course that combines these things, so programming and then sort of machine learning AI approaches. In terms of prerequisites, people need to be computer literate. So you know, there are a lot of people who still have some difficulty with navigating some aspects of that. That's going to be a little bit difficult. So get that up and going. And then programming takes time. It's like a language. I mean, it is a language, but the same way it takes a little while to learn to speak a new language like German or Spanish or something if you haven't spoken it before. You know, you need to be able to commit the time to practicing and trying it out and trying to say things in that language, which is what writing a program is, and then give that a go. Math-wise, I think where we've gotten to, at least the way we run it, and I think most other courses could be similar, you don't really need to have like a super solid background that you can read and understand the theoretical equations behind it. I don't think that you need to be able to prove why this is the most optimal use of the data. So like, you know, there are some proofs that, hey, this is the most efficient estimator. There are some proofs that algorithm A is equivalent to algorithm B. You don't need that math, and that's where a lot of the old textbooks you would focus on, right? Like proofs of these things, and you don't need that. But I do think that you know, having sort of a high school or equivalent understanding of statistics is useful. So if you can remember maybe what is a hypothesis test and what is a p-value and things like that, I think up to that level, and then the rest can sort of follow from there. That's our feeling, but we are very small.
So I mean that's refreshing as someone who comes from the institution of education. I mean you've done. I mean you've taught university courses. You know, you've got a PhD. Why is the educational establishment, I would say this today, is still somewhat outdated and so rigorously focused on the math aspect? Why is that happening, Nelson?
I think that's changing now. But yes, look, I mean, actually, a lot of these methods that we are calling AI or machine learning today, they are old methods, right? So some of them were around from like the 60s. They weren't that popular then because we didn't have the computing power to execute them. And now they're coming into popularity. Now, obviously, there's a whole branch of stuff that is probably new, right? You know, there are a lot of these approaches, like the deep learning approaches have probably branched off and gone further. You know, things like genetic algorithms and all that. So probably, you know, growing a lot more today. And I wouldn't say maybe a lot that's a really old method. But yeah, you know, that stuff came from academics. And I think that what happens is, you know, we think about how a university is set up, right? We hire a professor and we hire him because we want to improve the university rankings, and he needs to have published a certain number of papers. And as we publish papers, our score goes up. And so you get these guys who then need to focus on getting this research out. And when I was in the PhD program, I realized it's sort of a shift in mindset, right? You go from like, you know, undergraduate where you're learning some methods, and masters maybe you're applying them, and in PhD you're like, I'm not trying to solve one problem. I'm trying to show in my research that this entire class of problems is potentially solvable by somebody else, or that it's not solvable, or that this problem is this class of problems is exactly the same as that class of problem. So that's the type of research that happens. And then as you develop something, you know, maybe you become the one who sets up the syllabus, And we end up in this way where it's super mathematical, right? So, you teach time series and you focus on all the equations rather than let's apply it, and let's take a data set and do it. I think that might be changing. The types of courses that we do help universities to run tend to be a little bit more applied. But then on the other hand, if they're asking industry guys to sort of help out, maybe there is still a gap. So yeah, let's see.
It feels like a complete not even misunderstanding, a lack of awareness on the academic side with and this has always been the disconnect in all systems, where the academic system and the practical system are so out of sync, where employers complain that people coming out of school are grossly underqualified, and the academics also, there's some elitism going on, and this can prevent a lot of people from trying to research and understand AI. It feels like a lot of the literature out there is very extreme. On one hand, you've got sensational articles that talk about, shallow level things and AI, how it's going to, cause problems in society and the ethics of AI. And then on the other extreme, you've got extreme, like equations and mathematical research. And, this is what you find when you Google it. And I think what's missing is this middle ground, an easy path where you take it step by step. And I don't think, and I can share with you or share with our listeners after I've gone through this, not just once, several times, I've done a lot of stop and starts with learning how to code and learning AI, is just don't try to do everything. There are so many areas of AI, and we touched on them. There's things like computer vision, there's NLP, where you're looking at text and the machine's able to read the text, and there's speech transcription, and there's image recognition, and there's, calculations for things. Pick one area, or even better, don't go straight into the algorithms. Just start by thinking about something simple like Excel. What can you do in Excel? What are some functions in Excel that are very useful for you day to day? One of those might be you can sum some rows or columns together, right? You can multiply, you can addition, you can, do all of that. Then it might turn into, okay, how do I find the average? How do I find the mean? Once you start to think about what you can do in Excel and you try to replicate that, and I found, your course and others are a great springboard for this. 1-2 lines of code, and you can calculate the mean, you can calculate the standard deviation, you can calculate, some scores. And I think that's a really good way to start. It's not intimidating. It helps to understand some of the intuition, like what a mean or a mode is, obviously, but you don't have to go into calculus level or, differential equations or linear algebra. It's just a few sharp things. And it's like that Pareto principle, 80-20, the few things you can do with your hands on a keyboard that can give you tremendous amount of insights. And how you can plot the most beautiful graph in just, a few lines of code is mind-blowing. And people don't realize that's how easy it is. I'm sure you see this with your students, right? You type a few lines of code and they're just saying, wow, I was able to just put that on the screen and implement it. Wow.
No, absolutely. I think that's right. And I like this way of thinking about it. Think about like a concrete thing that you can do that's simple. And we do try to introduce piecemeal, various things like that. The other thing that I wanted to highlight is, and I think in combination with that, ultimately, do a project, right? Like actually build something that has some impact and some interest to you. We focus on that in the course, pick a data set, run some analysis that's useful for you or your company, and then present that project. And by actually doing it hands-on, you learn tons of stuff, right? And you learn how it's usable. And I need this because I'm going to do that, or I want to show that, so I need this. And then you don't, if your project doesn't involve analyzing images, then don't learn like right now image recognition, right? And that makes a lot of sense. The other thing I want to point out, I think schools are becoming like that. We increasingly, as we hire interns or fresh grads, I do see a lot of them that do have some sort of real world data projects. So hopefully that is the trend, and hopefully, this continues.
Yeah. So Nelson, to round up, why don't you tell us a bit about PropertyQuants for people that want to contact you or go on your course? Why don't you tell them a little bit about the offerings and how to actually sign up?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you've participated in this before, so thanks for that. We do run an 11 weeks course called Applying Data Science and Machine Learning to Real Estate. It is run online. The default is live sessions, so you join a meeting like this, but maybe 10 or 20 participants. It's really like attending a university course in this, but online. So we have people from all over the world. Right now, 40% from the US, about 20% from the UK, and people from all over. We have people who've taken part from Africa and Australia and things like that. So you get to also join the community and participate, and you're on there as well, where you can participate and chat with all the alumni, current participants. We've had participants from investment funds, pensions, and a lot of Proptech guys as well who participated, appraisers, evaluators, data scientists, and so on. And we'll start from the beginning. We'll start with, and you don't have to know programming. You can join us, learn Python, Pandas, machine learning, and then we'll go into the domain-specific applications of data science to real estate, building a property price index, automated valuation, forecasting. How do we find similar properties? Build market cycle indicators, geographic information systems, so we can analyze location and spatial data, and all of this, culminates in a capstone project. So we've had people, sort of scrape certain listing information and then use that to build automated valuation and say, hey, concretely, these are my top 10 opportunities to fix and flip and make a profit in property, or these are my top 10 buy to let. The people do forecasting. So from a fund perspective, hey, these are my top 10 zip codes for office market investment, right? So my deal sourcing team should prioritize looking at these places. So tons of content that's really applied and relevant. And if people want to find out more, they can visit our website at propertyquants.com/training. So propertyquants.com/training, or they can email us at training@propertyquants.com.
Nelson, I know I did the course asynchronously, which means, I didn't tune in live, and I know most of the value of the course is live. But if you're a busy professional, I was so eager to do your course, I didn't want to wait for your, because you were staggering them. You were doing live sessions and then recording that, right? In the Asian time zone, and then the European time zone, and the US time zone. And I didn't want to wait for the live US one. I just wanted to get, dug in. So I benefited a lot from that. And I know for the live participants, the courses are also recorded for the duration of that course, and they can listen to it. It took me, some of these subjects were so interesting or so technical, I had to listen to the videos a few times, but that was beautiful because then you can dissect what's happening and then apply it, and then you realize, okay, that wasn't so hard, So I think that's a beautiful thing today about e-learning as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do offer that option. I would say the split is about half, participants doing it live and participants doing it by video. And you're right, like even the live participants do benefit from being able to rewatch that. We've taught this quite a number of times now, so we've learned some things about sort of e-learning and how to use this format really well. And you're right, there's some advantages over a live class because, hey, you can repeat that, you can rewind it. We use the breakout rooms, we do exercises, you can ask questions in the community. So there are things that happen that in a regular classroom you can't do, and we've sort of tried to take full advantage of that. And we have tons of support, right? So, although you might choose to do it that way, we have guys to help you with software setup, and we have TA sessions and things like that.
I also definitely think this course keeps you accountable. I mean, it's not a cheap course; it is an investment. And you can probably tell us about what the current pricing is at least. But I also found people who do it live, you don't go easy on them, right? You're like, okay, well, why isn't it working? Show me your screen. And that suddenly changes everything. You can't just passively do this. You have to do it. So I felt like a lot of people that do these courses need to be held accountable. We come up with great wish lists when we're outside going for a run, or we're on a plane and you write down your top things you want to do in life. One of them is, I want to learn to code. I want to learn AI. Well, damn, do it then and sign up for the live course. And the benefit of that I saw is, being able to share the screen and you being able to troubleshoot issues. And there will be, there is a setup involved. And it's
absolutely. Yeah, look, I mean, a couple of points there. They're all really valuable. Joining the course is a commitment device, right? And so it's absolutely, if you join either live or by video and we say, hey, here's this weekly schedule, and 6 weeks after the last class present a project, that creates a commitment in your mind that, hey, I've got to understand this because I want to build a project and present it, and others can attend that presentation. It's a commitment in that sense. It's a commitment in terms of time. There is a financial commitment as well. If you want to find out the latest pricing, send us an email at training@propertyquants.com. It's just a little bit varied depending on which modules you want to take and which attendance option. So it's a little bit easier, if we send you sort of the complete information. So they can email us at training@propertyquants.com.
I'm sure if they mention the Proptech VC podcast, you'll figure out a discount for them of some sort, right?
Mention the Proptech VC podcast, we'll work something out. This is definitely relevant for a lot of the people who are listening in, whether you are in PropTech and you want to apply some of these methods to your business, whether you are in real estate investing, or as you had done, hey, you want to understand what other companies are potentially doing. Getting in depth into that can be tremendously valuable.
And Nelson, also, why do people do the course? I mean, my motivation was, and I think you laughed when you do an interview with your students, right, before they join, so you can understand them, or they can call you and they can find out more. But I said to you, look, I'm a PropTech VC, hence the PropTech VC podcast, right? And I am seeing so many startups who claim to be using AI, and I don't know what's real and what isn't. And as I'm investing not just my own money, but I'm investing money from LPs who invested in my VC fund, right, at Bluefield, I really need to make sure that I am doing due diligence and I can understand what's real and isn't. And also, I want to open my mind. I want to understand, where is this industry going? Because I want to invest in companies and startups that are going to change the ecosystem of PropTech and generate big returns. And AI is mandatory to get there, at least in many areas. What are the common reasons people do your course? I just gave a few there.
Yeah. Look, I mean, it turns out that there have been a number of other participants sort of with that same idea that, hey, I want to understand, in the VC space. So we've had a number of participants from that background. We've had investment funds. This is really a popular course for investment funds in real estate as well. Concretely want to build out investment strategies using data-driven approaches. We're seeing a lot more interest in that, right? So, like Investor in Oxford using AI methods in Australia, Quarry and Cherry picking properties out in New York. Two Sigma, which is a big typical hedge fund, now applying their methods into real estate. There's a lot of interest from that standpoint, and we have funds who send a number of analysts and say, okay, in our geography and our asset class, can we build a capstone project that does some analysis of where to invest or what the drivers of returns are? So that's absolutely one reason. Or, if you're in a PropTech, a number of them have joined because, hey, you hire data scientists, but they're not from the real estate field. So how do we apply the domain-specific methods into our company? So a number have joined based on that. Appraisers and valuators. So a number of forward-thinking appraisers and valuators say, okay, but I understand if I'm valuing, say, urban high-rises, there is, maybe there is a big opportunity to scale up the business and differentiate my offering by using these sort of data-driven methods. So absolutely. We then have had a number of realtors, right, who say, okay, maybe I can keep track of a large number of listings and so on and so forth, and figure out maybe, undervalued opportunities or find off-market inventory, right? So there's that. Property developers looking at, can I understand a location, plot out some of these factors on the GIS map, and then individuals, right, saying, hey, I understand, right, as underscored by sort of this KPMG survey that, data science in real estate is the next big wave. Can I sort of future-proof my career or get into some of these opportunities or get into PropTech companies or get into the forward-thinking sort of real estate investment firms? So for all of these various reasons, we've had this mix of participants. Many different use cases.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds mandatory to me, and I think it is becoming mandatory in schools, at least, where they do teach you some exposure. I mean, I can't speak globally, but in many places they are teaching you how to use computers, maybe a little bit of programming, maybe a little bit about how AI works. And if you're at a university, highly recommend doing a course. And you don't have to jump into a hardcore course. It could just be data analytics using Python or a title like that, which gives you a good entry level taste. Well, look, I appreciate you coming on. This is the most exciting topic in my view in PropTech and real estate. So it's great to have an expert like you. So thanks a lot.
No, thanks so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak and look forward to catching up again.